Now, ever since the start of the COVID-19 crisis here, we've been keeping in touch with those working on the front line. One of those we've been speaking to is Dr. Larissa Corder, an obstetrician and gynaecologist, redeployed as the NHS deals with the increased pressure. Dr. Larissa is joining me now. Thank you for speaking to me again today. Are you likely to go back to your day job soon after covering so much of this crisis in intensive care?
Well, for now, I still remain in intensive care, though the ward which I'm operating from has changed. So where I spent the first 6 weeks since the pandemic started has now become what we call a clean ward. So it's now accepting non-COVID intensive care cases related to trauma. So this is a positive sign that the hospital is slowly and gradually beginning to return back to normal. But I do remain redeployed in intensive care because we still have a couple of units open purely dedicated to COVID cases in intensive care. And there's still a lot to be done here with people who still remain on life support, some of who've been on that for over 50 days now, and for whom the prognosis is obviously not going to be as great. But we are still very hopeful we can achieve good results with some of these people, and we're giving it everything that we can. So it's really important that I'm there and helping as much as I can.
I'm sure. Putting your day job hat back on for a second, if you will, the latest research shows more than half of pregnant women admitted to hospital with COVID were from a Black and ethnic minority background. What is your advice for those who are pregnant right now from those backgrounds, or anyone thinking of getting pregnant at the moment?
So we recently had the UK surveillance system reveal some pretty disturbing results related to the BAME community, mainly Afro-Caribbean women in this country. And what's been revealed so far is that out of the women who are admitted to hospital with COVID who are pregnant, 55% of those belong to ethnic minority groups, which is a proportionate number essentially. Now, what we don't understand at the moment is whether this is to do with socioeconomic and racial injustices that exist within the UK, or whether it's to do with genetic and biologic factors that play into this. We do know, for example, that in Afro-Caribbean women in particular, they are more likely to suffer from hypertension, so problems with their blood pressure, 60% more likely to suffer with this. And we know that this is a major risk factor if you do develop COVID for later on developing complications of that disease, as is older age, obesity and having diabetes. And this is something that we're also seeing replicated in other parts of the hospital. So, for example, in intensive care, where I am at the moment, certainly the number of people affected by complications of COVID, there's a lot that belong to the ethnic minority group. So it's really, really important that we do the correct research into this to try and answer some of these questions as to why these ethnic minority groups remain so vulnerable, and furthermore, what we can do about that and put something in place. So, for example, if you do belong to one of these risk factor groups, I think it's very important, if you are considering pregnancy, to have the necessary counselling. But I just want to add to that overwhelmingly the report is very reassuring in terms of if you have COVID and are pregnant, your chances of ending up in hospital are 0.5%, which is very similar to the rest of the population. So that is a good bit of news coming from that.
OK, Dr. Larissa Corder, thank you very much. Thank you.